Write that down. On the SPY, I want a point range. Write that down. A point range. And the reason I want a point range, at least from the bottom of my cushion zone to my top of my cushion zone, or my sell zone to my top of my sell zone, bottom of the cushion zone, or whatever it is, I want a 1 point range. Because typically I figure if I want my 12 cents to 25 cents, yeah, with a 50% delta, I need to make sure that I have about a point move. A point move is going to be a 50 cents move here, and if I can capitalize a third to a half of the move, I'm plenty happy. Does that make sense, everybody? This is a ninja trick. You will not learn that unless you do it for so long as I do, for so many contracts I have done. Last week, I might have traded 800 contracts of the SPYs, you know, to make that result. Does that make sense, guys? I want a 1 point range at least. So perhaps we should look at charts. I can take a gazer of the chart and work on that gazer. Hold on. Ah, where's the pen? Okay, so let's gazer the chart on the SPY, and I'm going to show you that. And let's hurry up and we'll do the analysis and we'll call it a day. So, and please print all the stuff I told you to print. So, if you are looking for a long from the bottom of the cushion zone to the top of the cushion zone here, do you have your 1 point here? Do you have your 1 point? Those are little tricks, guys, that it takes years and years of doing with real money. Do you have your 1 point? Yeah. So there, this was a durable, good trade. If I go from here to here, do I have my 1 point? Yes. If I go from here to about here, do I get my 1 point? Barely, it's 90 cents. Do you understand? So I need to make sure that there's enough meat for 1 point. Now, if you were to look at the cushion zone from top to bottom and it's about 60 cents, I would not want you to trade this thing. Are we clear? Quick yes, no. I would not want to trade. It's not safe. Write that down. It's a rule that I have that is not in your mastery class, by the way. It's not on your mastery class, so you want to pay attention here. Yep. Awesome. Okay. Last one time, Ted. If there is not a 1 point range from bottom to top, you guys need to go to the recording. And there is not a minimum of 1 point range on my tops and bottom buy zones, sell zones, and cushion zones, I will not trade the SPY that day. I need a minimum of 1 point and know if I'm coming from the bottom to go to the top. And if the price action starts in the middle, you don't have a 1 point. If you start in the middle from here to here as 50 cents to here as 50 cents, you might be good and expecting only 10 cents for the day. So your expectations need to change. Does that make sense? Yes? No? Oui? Very important. First thing that you want to do, like with Anthony this morning, here's the option chain on the SPY. You want to look at your DTZ support and resistance, your buy zone, your sell zones, and caution zone. And I told you this morning that you want to be very tight in your analysis by 10 cents. Need to be very accurate in your analysis. Very accurate, I repeat. Not a leeway of 50 cents or whatever. It's way too much. Way too much as far as the leeway. Okay? So the next thing you want to know is where are the biggest open interest when you look at the combined open interest. Well, this morning I missed it. This is this one, $119,000 on the 198. put and calls. Look, because this has an open interest of almost 267,000. So you know right now that there is a high open interest, and what usually the high open interest does, it creates a narrow spread. Do you guys see the spread, the narrow spread on the puts 0809 by 1 cent? Yes or no? I'll take one or two questions after. See what I'm trying to teach. 1 cent. Look now, if I go to places where there is not a lot of open interest or less open interest, how bad it is. Look at this one at $6,900 of 6,900 at 200 and 12,000. Look at the bid and ask spread here. 15 cents. So I have a 15 cent spread and a 1 cent spread. So write that down. Typically, when you have high open interest and high volume, it has a tendency of shrinking the spread, and this is where you have a higher probability of making money with your assumption. You want generally to stay at 50 delta, guys. The 50 delta is the one that will move the faster, usually in my experience. You know, so people trade between 50 delta to 70 delta. I kind of have a sweet spot for the 50 delta, especially at the end of Tuesday, 3 p.m., or Wednesday and Thursday. I kind of like to stay at that 50 delta range and not to be deep in the money. On Monday, I have no problem taking a 70 delta until about 1 p.m. Tuesday. So now, why trading the SPY and the ES is more powerful? You know that I've gone through this 20 million times, so I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to touch to a point that I might not have touched before. So here's the ES, and here is the way the professional trade the ES. And here's the way I trade and we trade the SPY. Okay? We put a dividing line. Most of the professional on the ES trade with a 4-point ES stop loss. Those are the pros. That's versus the 2 points from the retail public. Does that make sense? Yeah? It's very important what I'm going to tell you, okay? So here's what happened. A 4-point ES move on the SPY is 40 cents. Do we all agree? Yeah? Do we all agree so far? It's 1/10. If you don't know that, now you know. It's 1/10 of the move. So 4-point move on the SPY, on the ES, is going to be a 40 cents move on your SPY. Now, if I buy a 50 delta option, a 40 cents move on the underlying SPY is going to be how much move in the option at a 50 delta, which is 50% correlation. Hurry up, everyone. 20 cents, correct. So now, did you realize what I just proved and showed to you? That with a 20 cent stop loss on SPY, with a 50 delta option, I have the equivalent of a 4-point ES stop loss. Is that huge or what? Is that huge? It's huge. Because the reason it's huge is because when you trade 1 ES here and you trade 5 SPY here, you risk $100 here and you risk $100 here, but they are not created equal. Here the retail trader risk 2 ES point stop loss, where in fact the professionals are set up at 4 point, but we are set up at 20 cent stop loss on 5 contract, which is the equivalent, right? Which is the same $100, but in fact it's the equivalent of 4-point ES, which means essentially I am more protected than the professionals. you guys understand that by using a 20 cents SPY, I'm achieving professional level from the hedge funds on ES of that 4 points, which most of you would never do 4 points, risking $200. Do you guys understand? What I just gave you again is worth 20 times your mentorship, because I'm putting, I'm planting in your mind and explaining, especially like guys like Rene, that are might be engineer types, why this is you're trading at professional level with a 20 cents SPY versus a 2 point ES, where you are going to be stopped all day long, guys. You'll be crucified all day long with a 2 point ES. Does that make sense, guys? Has anybody has a problem with this? It's a little bit like advanced, but it's important you get it, because what it does right there is prove to you that when we trade at 20 cents stop loss, we achieve professional level on ES. Now, another great thing about this is, look, one ES here requires at least $5,000 a contract to be safe. And look here, 5 contract here, if I buy any of those at a 50 delta, which is about right there, it's $500. So it's $500 versus 5K in capital requirement. So you use 10 times less capital. And the rate of return, just to let you know here on the ES, is usually between 3% and 10% max that I've seen. The rate of return on the SPY are usually between 10% and 300%. Is that huge difference? Yes or no? My minimum is the maximum on the ES. And I am using 10 times less capital, and I have a stop loss that equals the professional. Do you understand now why at a very profound level the SPY is so much more powerful than the ES during the market hours? Yes or no? Yes. So when Rene says, hey, if I buy an option at $1 right now on the SPY that expires weekly or whatever, or weekly option even next week, your stop loss is 20 cents below. Yeah, it would be at 80 cents. You go, you buy it, you put it, you forget it. Okay? And then you play by target. I told you this morning, try to target 10 cents to 15 cents to start your career on the sim. As you achieve that, start trading real money with 2 contracts, so that you have target 1 and target 2 taken care of, and DTZ is the target 2. This is very, 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 very profound what I just shared with you this morning. Very, very profound, because a lot of people just are afraid of the SPY. They don't understand why the SPY, and I totally get it, but you need to totally get also what I don't know how to say it, but you have to totally get what I'm saying here. It's very, very profound, you know? Okay, so hopefully everybody got that. By the way, the Amazon is still at 50 cents, 59 cents, 41 cents. So just FYI, that 335, 337 expiring next week. Okay, so what else? So hopefully that was it. Hopefully you got that. Look at Netflix, guys. It's very, very weak. Maybe it's doing an inverted and shoulder now. Very weak. Seems like it could go at 43. You know, the range on Netflix was not very big today, but still 8 points. So let's get back to the SPY. Any questions on what I've said for the SPY? Very clear. I've traded ES for a few years max. Okay, but for the people who have not traded the SPY, it might not be obvious. If you take a 70 delta, would your stop change? If you take a 70 delta, would your stop change? Yeah, it should in theory to match the 4 points, right? But no, I like the 20 cents and regardless. And I don't like to trade 70 deltas, to tell you the truth. You overpay for that. You overpay for those 70 deltas. So I don't quite know why you would want to do that. You overpay for the 70 deltas. Okay? Okay, so initially, are we clear of what I want you guys to do when we are going to start buying and selling the options around your DTZ analysis? I want you to do 2 contracts, no more. Okay? So let me show you the chart this morning, and perhaps we can brainstorm from that perspective. Let's open SPY and clean all the crap here. And let's take SPY. And I want to do an SPY analysis with you guys. Do you want to do an analysis of SPY before we leave so you prepare for tomorrow? You understand better because it's the most difficult one. Everything else is a piece of cake like the ES. The most difficult one is going to be your analysis to be real tight with SPY. So let's look at this trade this morning, which is not really easy to see. You have a cluster high, cluster low, let's say 98.68. And let's say you bought those 98 call like someone in the room, Max or something, right? I want you to take the habits as soon as this trade is at 98.80 or 98.60 and it goes up about 20 cents, 25 cents, that you take 12 cents profit on the first target. 12 cents doesn't look much, but if you were to buy 100 contract and regularly make 12 cents, you would make $1,200 regularly, you know. So 12 cents, okay, 10 to 12 cents regularly. Then the T2 needs to be one of those zones. It needs to be a caution zone, it needs to be a top of a caution zone, a bottom of a sell zone, a top of a buy zone. See what I mean? It needs to be DTZ. Target 2, DTZ, initial entry, 20 cent stop.